What's the worst lie you almost believed? My adoptive parents told me that my bio parents were murdered, and their dying wish was for me to avenge them by killing their attacker. Jimmy and Beth had been my guardians since I was 5 years old after my parents died. They treated me like an unwanted burden, making me do all the housework while constantly reminding me how much money they spent raising me. They would say I wasn't as smart or as useful as other kids and tell me I should be grateful they didn't dump me in foster care. Jimmy had a violent temper and would throw things when he was angry, and Beth was cold and manipulative, always making me feel guilty for existing. They ran some kind of business from home that involved a lot of secretive phone calls and visitors at odd hours, but they never explained what they did for work, and I got slapped the one time I asked. When I was a teenager, Jimmy cornered me in the garage where he kept his hunting rifles and told me the truth about my parents' death. He grabbed me by the shoulders and said, "Your parents weren't killed in a car accident like they told you. They were slaughtered by a man named George Abrams." He claimed my parents had discovered something about Abrams' business dealings, and he had them killed to keep them quiet. "Your mother's last words were, 'Make sure my son gets the payback we deserve,'" Beth added, appearing in the doorway. Jimmy shoved a photograph of a middle-aged man into my hands and said, "It's time you honored your parents' memory and gave them justice so their souls can rest." Looking at the man who'd taken my pictures for me, I felt sick. But even so, I was horrified by what Beth and Jimmy were asking of me, and I told them I wasn't a murderer. "Let's just go to the police if he's guilty," I said. Jimmy exploded with rage about me being an ungrateful pessy who expects other people to solve their problems for him. "Your parents would be disgusted with you." He said clearly it was his job to train me into the man my parents wanted me to be. After that, he'd make me practice shooting at targets in the backyard every day while lecturing me about family honor and settling debts. Beth would guilt-trip me by crying about how disappointed my parents would be if they knew I was too weak to avenge them. They started bringing up George Abrams constantly, showing me newspaper clippings about his business and telling me detailed stories about how he supposedly killed my parents. Jimmy would describe graphic scenarios of how my parents died and say, "That monster needs to pay for what he did to them." They began restricting my access to money and transportation, claiming I couldn't be trusted to make good decisions until I stepped up and became a man. Jimmy installed a lock on my bedroom door and started locking me in at night, saying it was to prevent me from running away like a coward. Beth would stand outside my door and tell me stories about my parents' supposed final moments, describing how they begged for their lives and asked Abrams to spare me. The breaking point came when Jimmy brought home a detailed map of Abrams' neighborhood and daily schedule, along with a loaded handgun. He slammed them on the table and said, "You have 1 week to grow some balls and do what needs to be done, or you can find somewhere else to live." I couldn't bring myself to kill someone based on their claims, so I started secretly researching my parents' death online and requesting official records from the police department. What I found made my blood run cold. The police report clearly stated that my parents died in a single-car accident during a snowstorm, with no evidence of foul play or involvement from any other parties. There was no mention of George Abrams anywhere in the official documentation, and the accident had been thoroughly investigated by multiple agencies. I also discovered that Abrams was actually a respected businessman who had never been involved in any criminal activity. When I confronted Jimmy and Beth with the police report, all hell broke loose. When they realized I wasn't going to kill Abrams, they stopped acting like this was ever about me at all. Jimmy grabbed me by the throat and snarled, "Your parents weren't murdered, but Abrams has been asking too many questions about our business, and he needs to disappear. We raised you for 11 years, and now it's time you paid us back," she said coldly. They locked me in the basement and told me I wouldn't be released until I agreed to kill Abrams. They said if I wouldn't do it, they'd be forced to kill him themselves and frame me. So I pretended they'd worn me down and said I'd do it. But when they released me, instead of killing Abrams, I went straight to him and begged him to get himself to safety, telling him my adoptive parents were out for blood. He revealed that he had been investigating Jimmy and Beth's money laundering operation and had already contacted the FBI about their activities. These death threats were the smoking gun he needed. Within hours, FBI agents raided the house and arrested Jimmy and Beth for conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, and child endangerment.